If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. Obviously, we've got a lot of stuff happening in the world of comic books, specifically Marvel and DC. They've been dropping all their new series and kind of big story arcs that they're going to be doing in December. We just got the Marvel solicitations today. Obviously, that video I think will be up on Saturday night. I'll be doing the DC solicitations, which I imagine will be out Friday. I'll cover those on Sunday like I normally would. And we've got some big news from DC to talk about right now. As they say, the Lord giveth and he taketh away. We lost Hellions, my favorite ongoing series over at Marvel, and we've got a new Robert Venditti Superman-related comic book series. So something that absolutely whets the appetite if you're this guy. So we've got Robert Venditti's World of Krypton coming up. We also have, finally, that Batgirls series they've been teasing. What, almost 3 years now? They've been teasing it for a long time. Finally, that Batgirl series is going to be here. We're getting our first foray into Black Label for a Swamp Thing series with a pretty decent name writer on that one. Interesting to talk about that. So I'm a big fan of Swamp Thing. And then finally, we also have like a throwaway series. Is it a series or a one shot? It doesn't really matter. It's Mark Russell, but I will talk about One Star Squadron because there could be viewers of the channel that are interested in that comic book, despite being written by a complete hack and terrible comic book writer, in my opinion. But let's get into these DC Comics news. I'm super stoked. We know, I think it was 9 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. Robert Venditti said he had 2 upcoming DC projects that were yet unannounced. One of them was a dream project. The dream project is Superman 78. Obviously, that one's already started. The first issue came out. It was absolutely fantastic. But there was the yet unannounced project. I thought maybe it was never going to come out. I was like, where the hell is this damn thing? It finally is here. It is the World of Krypton. And I'm being completely honest, I would not read this comic book if it weren't a Robert Venditti comic. I think Krypton's interesting. I know enough about Krypton, basically with the origin of Superman. It's been told many, many times. I think the television show Krypton didn't work for a reason. Krypton's interesting in its association with the origin of Superman and to a lesser degree, Kara, in the death of his parents and stuff. Other than that, I understand that it got blown up. But this is Robert Venditti. This is my favorite comic book writer, and I will absolutely be reading it. Definitely, we'll do a full review when the first issue comes out here on the channel, as I always do with the Robert Venditti series, other than the ones that were on Bad Idea, because those didn't come out digitally, so I had to wait for them to show up. I had to have somebody ship them to me, and they showed up like 3 months later. The artist is going to be Michael Avon Oeming, who some people, a lot of fans will probably know of. I'm not the biggest fan of his work. We'll get to some of the teaser pages that they sent out there. But this is a 6-part miniseries, and the publisher, DC Comics, is referring to it as a modern retelling of one of the most storied periods in comics. So we're going to get a kind of a retelling of the death of Krypton and the escape of Kal-El, soon to be known as Clark Kent. And obviously, I imagine we're going to learn how Krypto, as well as Kara-Zor-El, also escaped Krypton before it was destroyed. And despite the inevitable conclusion, we know that it's going to blow up. DC says the series is going to shine new light on characters such as Jor-El, General Druzad, Krypto, and Kara-Zor-El. And obviously, we will probably get a little bit about Kal-El as well, likely by the end, as he is jettisoned off to escape the dying planet. And the publisher also says the series will contain action, cosmic wonder, and political intrigue, and is a story as much about Earth today as the fictional world. Now, normally, but just about every other writer, when I hear a line like that, is a story as much about Earth today as a fictional world, that would be an automatic red flag. We're like, you fooled me once, you fooled me twice. I know what you're doing here. Am I going to read another Rorschach story where in the end we got to see, who was it, Tom King basically write about his secret fantasy to kill a Republican presidential nominee with his own bare hands. That was, I guess, his take on Trump. God, don't even. I'm not gonna talk about that damn comic because it was such a waste of time. I hope you didn't invest in or in Rorschach, but because Robert Venditti's on this series, not because of any of his political links or anything, but because he's actually a really good comic book writer, you're not going to get something like that. I'm 100% certain of that. World of Krypton #1 goes on sale December 7th, and like I said, I will definitely be a fan. I will be a customer. Robert Venditti is the gold standard as far as I'm concerned in mainstream comics. He is the very best comic writer that you're going to find. He's reliable. Everything he writes is good. The worst that you're going to get is good, and the best you're going to get is like spectacular. That's kind of where he ranges in. The worst Robert Venditti comics I've read are good. They stand out as not as good as the other ones just because, wow, this wasn't mind-blowing. It was only really good. When you can say that about a writer, you can say that a lot of times about like a Jeff Johns. Obviously, he's over at Image now. I imagine we'll see him at DC again. I know he had a little short in that Aquaman 80th anniversary thing. But, he's kind of the one, at least in my opinion. Now, as far as the art, there is preview of it from Michael Avon Oeming. Not really my thing. It's just, it's perfectly fine. It's not a deterrent. I've read Robert Venditti comic books with worse art than this, and I've enjoyed them. So it will not keep me away from this comic book, but I know that I'm not really going to enjoy the art. Some people probably love it. It's just not my deal. So I am super duper excited about the World of Krypton. Robert Venditti's take on the precursor to the destruction of Krypton and what happens to the political machinations going on Krypton as they have a world-ending event coming up. Definitely must read, in my opinion. Next series, we've got Batgirls. This thing has been teased since like 2018's Detective Comics 989, 980, something like that. Also was alluded to in 2021's Batman Urban Legends #5. I believe it was also alluded to in Joker War. Whatever that one shot from James Tynion was. There was a short story in there about the Batgirl. It was clear that this series was going to come out. They've been hinting at it multiple times for years now. It's finally coming out. And I must say, I am very impressed by the artist, Jorge Kuroda. I know some of you are going to say, but Wes, sometimes you talk crap about Riley Rossmo's art and how terrible it is. And you could say that Jorge Kuroda has a somewhat similar style, but he's actually good with it. He doesn't make it absolutely terrible. So Jorge Kuroda, if you do not recognize the name, he was the artist on Middle-earth. He's done some other work. We've seen him recently on DC Comics. I think this is a good get for this series. I think with what they are trying to do with it, I think his art is going to play very well right into that audience. The issue really comes in with the writers. I don't think Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad are a good writing team. I don't understand why they keep getting work. It feels like, in some respects, this is an upgrade from the Wonder Woman series. And somebody's like, well, Wonder Woman's part of the Trinity. Yeah, but the sales are really terrible. The sales on Batgirls, at least initially, you would imagine would actually do better than Wonder Woman. But I might be wrong on that one. Maybe the anticipation for this new Batgirl series featuring Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown as the titular Batgirls being monitored and mentored by Barbara Gordon in her Oracle persona. Maybe not as many people are as excited for this as I think they will be. But I think it's going to be really cool. It says they are going to be navigating the dark, gritty, and scary Gotham City while leaning on each other's friendships. They're going to be mentored by Oracle. The Batgirls move to the other side of town where Barbara Gordon can keep a better eye on them while the hacker Seer is still invading their lives. So we're having some fallout from Fear State, or perhaps this takes place during Fear State, does it? Nah, Fear State should be over in November. So obviously the Seer is still there, or as they've called this character, the Anti-Oracle. And it goes on to say, Steph may be too rash sometimes and Cassie doesn't speak much, What they lack in similarities, they make up for with their mutual respect and love for each other. And what makes them stronger together is Batgirls. This rebellious group of superheroes teams up to kick ass and try to make it as normal teenagers. Very fine. I think of all the Batman-related characters, I do think Tim Drake is the one that gets the shaft the most. He deserves better than what he's gotten, and I'm not even talking about the recent reveal. I'm just talking about the spotlight. He gets put. They only talk about Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Damian Wayne. When some of you are gonna be like, "What about Stephanie Brown?" Well, what about Stephanie Brown? They killed her off quickly for a reason. That character was not all that popular. She should have remained spoiler. Obviously, she will be spoiler here. But outside of Tim Drake, I do think Orphan is really the character that should be a standout, should be like a really badass, awesome character that gets featured a lot, but they just, for some reason, they forget about her. She shows up every now and then. She maybe kicks a little bit of butt, and then you never see her again. So I think it's cool that character is getting spotlighted. Hopefully hopefully Stephanie Brown takes a backseat. In my opinion, some of you out there are going to say, "But Stephanie Brown's my favorite Robin." Okay, we'll disagree. But I do think Cassandra Cain, Orphan, is really one of those characters that deserves more spotlight and promotional push from DC Comics than they get. We're also going to see a secret new muscle car and secret patrol routes. When they say they're going to the other side of town, I wonder if they're going to Burnside, because that's where Barbara Gordon has hung out to escape Gotham in the past. We shall see. As far as the second issue, this is what it says in the solicitation. Oracle realizes the most effective way for the girls to wear her newly upgraded comms is by piercing their ears. And Cass freaks out. When I see something like that, I realize immediately, despite my adoration for Cassandra Cain, Orphan as a character, despite loving Oracle, Barbara Gordon, I think that's the best version of that character. And then both being 2/3 of this comic book, this isn't for me. I will read it and we will review it on This Week in Batman, but it will be reluctantly. This isn't something where I'm like, yes, that Batgirls I couldn't be more excited for. So not only is the writing team of Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad substandard, in my opinion, we do have a great artist in Jorge Corona, but when I see we got to pierce their ears and they're scared, I know that this is not a comic book that I'm going to probably, that I wouldn't pick up willingly. Let's put it that way. Who knows? I could love it. There's certainly been stories not aimed at this guy that I've enjoyed in the past. So that is Batgirls coming up soon. Next up, we have the first Black Label Swamp Thing series. This is going to be from a very, very high-profile creative duo. We got Jeff Lemire and Doug Mahnke. Man, Doug Mahnke, how does this guy not have a major ongoing series? Is it because he doesn't want it? Because if he does, he should have it. He is badass. His work with Peter J. Tomasi on Detective was amazing. All this, he's just a great Batman artist, and it's unfortunate he probably should be one of their featured artists at this point. They've had enough defections. And Doug Mahnke should have been there anyway, but there's been enough defection that there should be no choice but to give Doug Mahnke a major book. Now, Swamp Thing, this 3-issue limited series from Black Label, feels major to me because I love the character. I'm not a fan of Jeff Lemire. You're like, but you said he was a good writer. He is a good writer. Jeff Lemire is actually a fantastic writer, but Jeff Lemire is also an Antifa supporter. He's been very vocal about that. He even made a special logo for comic writers. Whatever, dude. That's not my thing. So I will probably be taking a pass on this, but I will vouch that it's likely to be absolutely fantastic. And this will be a 3-part dystopian tale on DC's Black Label line. In Green Hell, which would be the subtitle of the Swamp Thing, it's Swamp Thing Green Hell, the Earth is all but dead. The last remnants of humanity cling to a mountaintop island lost in an endless floodwater. The Parliament of Greens, the Red, and the Rot all agree it's time to wipe the slate clean and start the cycle of life over again. And to do so, they've united their powers to summon an avatar, one of the most horrific monsters to ever stalk the surface of this forsaken planet. Against a creature like that, there can be no fighting back unless you have a soldier who understands the enemy, someone who has used its tactics before, someone like Alec Holland, Shame he's been dead for decades. We've certainly seen Alec Holland return recently within the Ram v Swamp Thing to kind of guide the new Swamp Thing Levi into his ascension as the new Keeper of the Green. We obviously will be seeing Alec Holland come back to blight the earth, perhaps. The covers look amazing with Doug Mankey on art. It's absolutely going to look fantastic. I know Lemire worked with Scott Snyder in the past when he was writing Swamp Thing, so I'm not going to read this. But if you're a Swamp Thing fan and that Jeff Lemire stuff doesn't bother you, you should absolutely support this, because this is almost guaranteed to be worth your time and a very good read. Now, the final comic book, which I will already mentioned before, I think is absolutely written by the one of the worst writers of DC Comics. I might have mentioned that in my Batman video yesterday. We've got Mark Russell and Steve Lieber getting together on One Star Squadron, a 6-issue series starring a team DC describes as promising Superman-level service at bizarro prices. So it's supposed to be funny. The series follows a ragtag group of heroes led by Red Tornado, who are heroes for hire for anything, be it the latest DC alien invasion or a kid's birthday party. The team's services can be retained via their on-demand hero app, and according to DC, no job is too big or too small. So there will be shenanigans. We've certainly seen, I think we've seen Plastic Man. We've definitely seen Power Girl in her little boob window. That one's still intact, so it's good to see that. It felt like they were trying to get rid of that aspect of the character. And, it's going to be kind of a weird team. And this is a further description of the series. In a series where heroism meets capitalism, the new team of working stiffs includes other superheroes like Gangbuster and Minuteman, who try to figure out who is behind the new venture and why. That little in quotes in there, heroism meets capitalism, with a writer like Mark Russell, almost guaranteed to be absolute trite, because Mark Russell, he hates capitalism. He's a socialist. And I don't know, for someone, he just seems to write a bunch of stuff he hates. I don't get it. He only writes about things that he loathes so he can make fun of them. So One Star Squadron might be your cup of tea, but it is not my cup of tea. And I took Jimmy at his word. Jimmy's like, you need to read Fantastic Four Life Story. Mark Russell's going to bring the heat. And I read the first issue. It disgusted me. I was like, why did I read this? I talked to Jimmy. It disgusted him even more than it disgusted me. So he was proven wrong on a series that he was certain was going to be fantastic. Mark Russell, he's on my level. He's on my never list. And the good thing is Mark Russell is such a shitty writer that he has not ascended to the level of a Tom Taylor or a Tom King, to where he gets to write actual important characters. So he's stuck in purgatory writing Snagglepuss in One Star Squadron, which are eminently skippable and of no consequence or interest to me anyway. So I'm glad that he's such a shitty writer that I actually don't have to deal with him in the things I actually do enjoy. Mark Russell is the drizzling shits of comic book writers. You heard it here first. And that does it for the latest DC comic series coming out. We've got The World of Krypton, guaranteed to be a barn burner. Robert Venditti on a series I normally wouldn't read, but he is the best writer in comics, in my opinion. Certainly at the big two, guaranteed to deliver on this 6-part miniseries. Batgirls, been teased for 3 years now, finally arrives. Hey, the artist, Jorge Corona, is badass. The writing team of Clunan and Conrad are suspect at best. And it's quite apparent by the information within the solicitation and the release that this is likely aimed at 12-year-old girls, so it's not really for me anyway. But I will read it, because we do This Week in Batman, and Batgirls will certainly be a Batman-related title. Swamp Thing, Green Hell, 3-issue, Black Label, going to be in that Prestige Plus format. Jeff Lemire, Doug Mankey, that is a badass creative duo. I don't support Jeff Lemire because I've had enough, but if that doesn't bother you, you should definitely read that one. And One Star Squadron is guaranteed to be hogwash. It's going to suck balls. If you read it, don't say I didn't warn you. Mark Russell is the worst. Obviously, there will be on Sunday, I will talk about all the DC solicitations as long as they come out tomorrow. Saturday, I'll talk about the full Marvel solicitations on the channel and any other news. Obviously, we'll be here for the Comics Aficionado Saturday. We're going to have Eric Canetti. We're going to have Joe Corrales. We're going to have a couple of pros to talk about all the things happening within the comic book industry, as well as Nerdy Girl Creates, Doc. Oh, and Yule Carter. So we'll have a little retailer presence as well. Hope to see you there.